Hello and welcome to another live edition of the Nittany Dispatch. I am John Sauber, Penn State beat writer at the Center Daily Times. She's Audrey Snyder doing the same at InsideTheLines.substack.com. And we are now in the throes of December, Audrey.
You know, I'm sorry. I yawned right as you started, and I didn't time it up right. But it's yeah, we're nothing if not always on around here. But John, you're recording, right? Like you agreed to hit the record button.
Yes.
This is okay. Cool.
As we all know, as everyone now knows, this is a two-party consent state, and you must do that in order to record these sorts of things. But yes. Fortunately, I don't think we have to discuss that too much. But we do have some coaching additions to discuss. Penn State sort of in the middle of figuring out what this first coaching staff is going to look like under Matt Campbell. As always, if you have questions, leave them in the chat. We will get to as many as possible, like we always do. But I feel like we should start with the offensive side of the ball because that's where the most clarity is right now. Actually, I think every position except for one on offense, we have clarity.
Yeah, I was thinking about this right as we were starting because we don't do any prep work around here. This is our day-to-day lives covering this team. That is their prep work.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, most of this staff is in place, right? Like, obviously, the big piece is the defensive coordinator, which we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, I mean, we saw Penn State released 10 hires last Friday. And it was really important to note, John, that in that email they sent out, it's a position subject to change.
Yep.
Did you? You gave me a look there. If you're watching on YouTube, that like maybe you didn't read the full email, but like important distinction was in the email.
Listen, if one of us reads the full email, it's me.
100%.
I feel confident saying that. But yes, I think that is important because this is the staff's not done. They're trying to figure out. One, like we don't know where Terry Smith is going to be in the staff. We know he's going to be the associate head coach. We don't know what position. We don't know anything else other than that. But yeah, I think they're kind of at this point where it's all really nebulous. They can figure out who fits where once they have the exact people they want in the building. And I think that's the most important thing right now, getting those people in the building. And that starts, though, I think, with the two coordinator spots, and specifically on offense, where Taylor Mauser comes in as the offensive coordinator, as the tight ends coach. And while that is subject to change, I don't know that one will. It's possible. It's possible he doesn't coach a position. It's possible that he coaches a different position. But my expectation would be that he stays as the offensive coordinator, tight ends coach, as was originally announced. And I am curious for your thoughts on that hire out the gate.
Matt Campbell has his guys, right? Every coach does, right? We're seeing that with James Franklin and his Virginia Tech staff. And I tweeted it last week that like all the guys that you'd expect to join James Franklin at Virginia Tech are joining him at Virginia Tech. Like that's how this
Well, not all
works.
of them.
Well, all the ones you'd expect, I think.
I don't know. There's a certain assistant quarterbacks coach who I think has to make a decision. I think he's more likely to be at Penn State next year than with James Franklin.
Okay, so while John, all of the main players in the game that, yeah, like sometimes I'm sorry, I forgot about the assistant to the quarterbacks coach. My bad. And I think I think when you kind of look at it and you say, okay, like, where is this thing headed? Mauser has been one of Matt Campbell's guys. I mean, you go back to his background, which is really fascinating, and I think this is a theme with the staff. One, it tends to be younger. Like I think this is a younger staff that we're going to be dealing with. But two, these are guys that have had. You talk about some humble beginnings in this industry. I think Mauser certainly fits that billing because you go back, you look at it. You know, this is someone who, after college, is trying to figure it out, is literally working back home in Arizona at a Little Caesars, and then drives across the country to be a GA for Matt Campbell, right? Shows up at Toledo to get a foot in the door, and then goes from there with him to Iowa State, where he was a GA for his second year, and then stays with Campbell, stays there for the entirety of that Iowa State tenure, and literally keeps working his way up. I mean, you look at this guy's background, it's fascinating in that he spent time in the recruiting department. He spent time like climbing all the steps on the ladder to becoming the tight ends coach and then the OC, right? And I think there probably is a little bit of surprise here in that, and we talked about this, I want to say last week, of like maybe Penn State tries to swing really big on an OC because worked out really well the last time they did those things on both sides of the ball. It's my sarcasm font. But I think that just speaks to Campbell's going to do what he wants to do, and these are people he believes in. And the whole thing with this head coach and this staff, and we've talked about this a lot already, and I'll continue to beat this drum. They are known for doing a lot with a little in terms of resources, in terms of, hey, 3-star players, let's churn you out, right? So that to me is just so different, where Penn State under James Franklin was enamored by the stars, right? And you're just coming off this tenure with a 5-star quarterback and you're 6-6, right? Like, I think we can say, while the stars are great, and more often than not, that does lead to good things in this sport, and it's important, there are so many different ways that you can build and construct a roster and a coaching staff. And I think we're getting kind of that developmental staff, which is going to be a really fascinating shift around here.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with Mauser in particular, he's a bit of an unknown. He's not that much of an unknown, though. He's put together some good offenses considering Iowa State's talent level, but they have not been elite offenses or great offenses by any means. That being said, you want someone that kind of aligns with your vision of offense if you're Matt Campbell, and he obviously believes he has that in Mauser, and will have the chance to, or will give him the chance to prove that he can do it at this sort of level. I think there's reasons for optimism, right? I think the fact that he's willing to be adaptable in his offenses, they go from having Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel to leaning on Carson Hansen and Abu Sama, like in 2 separate years, like 1 in 24, 1 in 25, and the offenses look totally different, right? And Rocco Becht is asked to do different things in each of those years because of the weapons he has at his disposal. So I think that's going to be important. You want to cater everything you do to your personnel. You don't want to be, and I actually think this was, and people will hate hearing this, I actually thought this was a strong suit of Andy Kotelnicki for a while, that he was able to cater things to his personnel. It's just a lot tougher when your personnel turns out to not be as good as you thought it was. And I think that really impacted this season. But having that kind of attribute is a sign of a good offensive coordinator, someone that can put those guys in the best position they can to succeed and do it, year over year. You don't have to look the same in college football. You rarely do now, especially because of the transfer portal and eligibility rules and everything. And so I think the biggest thing is finding someone for Campbell, someone he believes in, who can do that. And the 2 things we know about Taylor Mauser is, 1, that Campbell believes in him pretty clearly, and 2, he can be adaptable. And I think the rest will sort of play out on its own. I've said it time and time again with head coaching searches. On some level, you're guessing with all of these hires, hoping that they can make it work in your specific set of circumstances. But I think he's identified someone that should be able to succeed. It's just a matter of, does it happen? Because I'd have told you that Andy Kotelnicki was going to be one of the best offensive coordinators and have one of the best seasons in college football this year, and that obviously didn't turn out to be the case.
Yeah, and I think, you look at what they've been able to do through the air in the Big 12, and you also look what they've been able to do on the ground, right? Like, that speaks to your point, is that there are different ways to do this, to tailor it to your personnel. And again, this is also an Iowa State team that was decimated by injuries this year. Like, that was pretty insane when you go back and look just at how many injuries they had, and significant injuries. So yeah, I mean, you have to be able to tailor your offense to your personnel. And yes, every coordinator says that they do that. But we've also seen that not be the case. But to your point, John, you got to have the players. You got to have the pieces. And I think where we probably should go next with this is having the pieces and not having the pieces. The theme that we've talked about here repeatedly on this show for probably at least 3 years is the receiving core. And
yes,
it is what it is. God, we have one more game to cover this season, the Pinstripe Bowl, December 27th. Cannot get here soon enough just to kind of put a bow on this bizarre season.
It feels like everyone is kind of going through the motions with regard to the 2025 team right now, right? Like, it feels 100%. like I'm sure they're practicing hard and everything, but like, there are going to be plenty of guys that were on this team that won't be playing in the bowl game. They're guys that opted out, whether they're in the portal, whatever.
Already a lot of opt-outs. I'm sure there's going to be more coming.
Yeah, and the portal entries, I think that will be important too, because a lot of those players, like, there will be players that were starters most of the year that might go in the portal, and so we don't see them, in the Pinstripe Bowl. But yeah, I think it feels like everything is going, strangely at this time. Which, real quick reminder, I saw this in the chat, so don't want to forget to say it. Don't forget to like and share the podcast and subscribe to it. If you're watching on YouTube, down below, hit that thumbs up button. That really helps us out. Go ahead and throw it on the screen here. Appreciate it from Drew. Yes, always helps when you guys do that. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts after fact, don't forget to rate, review, leave those 5-star ratings. Those really help us out. But yes, I think the wide receivers are the most important part of this because they've been the worst part of this for the last few years. And they bring in as was originally reported, I believe, by Nate Bauer of On3 on Sunday. And then it started to be reported more today, and I confirmed, and I believe you may have as well, that Noah Pauley is going to be joining Penn State from Iowa State. He has a great track record. I mentioned Higgins and Knoll, right? Like those two are high-end receivers who one went at the top end of the second round. One went at the
Whoa, you forgot.
I'll get
somebody.
there. Give me a second. This year, Higgins went in the top of the second. Knoll went in the top of the third, both to the Houston Texans, which might only be funny to me, but it is funny to me. And then Christian Watson, a few years ago at North Dakota State, went in the 2022 draft after he was with him from 19 to 21. Yeah, it was the overlap between the two. He obviously helped Christian Watson break out and is obviously an often injured receiver for the Green Bay Packers.
I've endured enough this week, John. I've endured enough this week.
But yes, clearly Pauley very good at the job from what it seems.
Yeah. In fact, I went back and I started reading some of the Christian Watson, Pauley stories from when Watson was drafted, just to kind of refresh my brain. And again, the theme I mentioned, and we're gonna keep hitting this one. They're doing more with lesser talent, right? Lesser star talents, right? This is not a staff that is enamored by the rankings. And I'm going to say, John, it's refreshing. I don't know if it's going to work, right? We're going to find out.
Well, that's the thing. Like you can't just say ratings don't matter and we're not getting any 4 or 5 star talent. Like they need those level of guys. The point is though, you hit on some of the 3-star guys and your 4-star and 5-star guys reach their ceiling because you're good at developing. I think that gets lost in the development discussion. It's not just about taking guys that weren't recruited, taking the 0-star,
for sure,
turning them into a Heisman winner, right? It's about taking the talent you get and getting the most out of them that you can.
Yeah, I mean, again, I go back several coaching staffs now, several regimes, and you just you've seen this, especially under James Franklin, this receiving core, the back half of Franklin's Penn State tenure, the Justin Shorters of the world, where you're just like, okay, like this guy looks like a specimen, looks like he's going to be somebody, and it never happens here. And you just don't develop the guys that you had. And then you've got the whole weird thing this year of Denmark and Kobe Howard, and why can't they get on the field? And James isn't playing the younger guys, and baffling, perplexing, I'll say it, dumb.
Yes.
Right?
I don't understand. So sometimes with James, it felt like he made a decision and then felt like he had to stick with that decision because it was the one he originally made, right? Like, I understand, like, you want certain things out of Kobe Howard. You want him to be able to block. You have to do what's best for your football team. And it was pretty clear pretty early that Kobe Howard getting more reps was going to give them a better chance at the end of the year. Obviously didn't end up mattering at all. But yeah, I think that is the biggest thing. Like you have to be able to be flexible and make those decisions and allow your opinions to change, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and you go back to Higgins and you look at the profile, right? Coming out of the transfer portal. That's another piece. This is a guy that you get to come into your program at Iowa State and you develop him into a top of the second round, right? Just barely outside of their first round selection. That's huge. I mean, the lack of development, the lack of playmakers here in the receiving core the last 5-6 years has been baffling. It's been one of those things where you can trace it back to recruitments, developments, injuries, quarterback play, the revolving door of offensive coordinators. Like there's so many reasons for why it's been a train wreck around here at that one position group. But I think this hire should get you excited, right? Like this to me is hey, they're going to have an opportunity to do something here, I think.
Well, and I think too, with what happened with receivers in recent memory, it became self-fulfilling on some level, right? Like they have a down year and then all of a sudden it's all everyone talks about. And all of a sudden guys that we're going to go to Penn State, don't go to Penn State. So then you're getting not as good of recruits. And all of a sudden you're not working with as much talent wise. And it kind of, you know what I mean? It perpetuated itself because, it became a thing because it was a thing for 1 year. And so I think that was a big thing there. Now with Pauley there, I imagine they get out of that rut pretty easily. I think the other spot that the other 2 spots everyone is curious about right now, we'll jump around here. I was going to go offense, defense, But this feels easier. and we're 15 minutes into the show. It feels like we need to talk about the opening at defensive coordinator.
The big one left.
Yes, it is the big opening. That running backs coach. We'll get to running backs coach next as well. So defensive coordinator is probably the most important hire. It seems like John Haycock, the defensive coordinator at Iowa State, if he comes to Penn State, it will be in a role that is not the defensive coordinator, not rolling it out completely. But I don't expect that to be the case right now. There are names sort of floating around. My impression is that Matt Campbell is going to take his time to make sure he gets the right hire. Someone I know you mentioned in your Substack, you can find it insidelines.substack.com, is a name that I heard over the weekend as well, and that's USC defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn. I wouldn't be surprised if that is someone that Campbell's targeting. Not a guarantee that he would want to come here. Not a guarantee that that's who they decide on. But that is a name that I know we are both aware of. But what do you see the top priorities being for this next hire? Because it is the most important one on the staff. Because as much as we can say about Mauser, Campbell is an offensive guy, right? Like he was an offensive coordinator previously. So you would think that there would be more influence potentially from him on that side of the ball than on defense.
Yeah, we know that Jim Knowles is at Tennessee now, right? That's the other piece, because people have been kind of waiting on that one. That happened, gosh, I want to say on Friday. He was introduced, or formally announced, I should say, in Knoxville. So, yeah, I mean, you've gone the big name hire, the splash hire last offseason. But again, the personnel was not good enough, right? You give...
I think we also really undersold, and me especially, like mea culpa on this one, I really undersold how long it would take for the players to adjust to what Jim Knowles wanted to do. And by the time they were playing well, it was because they had streamlined everything and kind of minimized the playbook. And so I think, not minimized, but like shrunk it a little bit and made everything more straightforward. And so it was pretty clear by the end that this was not going to be a long-term fit.
Yeah, the players volunteering to sit in on staff meetings, that was our cue that something was terribly wrong. And that I remember, honestly, that's going to be one of the things I remember from this train wreck of a season is like King Max saying that. And gosh, I want to say it was maybe like early October. My response just being like, what? Am I understanding correctly? And it's like, good on you guys for trying to get help and put in the work to try and understand this. But
and that's the thing that tells me like maybe it really is Knowles' fault and it's overly complex if the players are going above and beyond like that and still not getting it.
Yeah, and I think, and this was, I mean, we talked about it last offseason when he got here. He had said that, he had learned some best practices about installing his defense. And I am fascinated to see what, if anything, changes at Tennessee, because otherwise, if you're a Tennessee fan, you're tuning in. You guys might be going through the same thing next year where it's, hey, Jim, we don't get it.
Tennessee fan Audrey Snyder, isn't that you?
It's always on my desk. Not Tennessee fan, Tennessee. Everyone's favorite mid-30s Tennessee grad student.
Yes.
Yeah, so that'll be a fun thing to watch from afar. But no, I mean, I think with this hire, again, this staff tends to be young, which is why I think like Lynn could also be an intriguing piece here if he wants to do it. Penn State, James Franklin went hard after D'Anton Lynn last year, right? Like that was the whole thing that they were trying to bring him here last year. So didn't work out last time around. He stays out in California. I will say too, I think if he decides now to come here, I think after that happens, we can have some interesting discussions on why he would decide this year to make that decision. Why, John? What's different?
We'll talk about it later.
I think the thing with Lynn is that this is someone who you also can hit on the Penn State Letterman piece, which I think you look at this staff. Obviously, we know Ty Howell's at Virginia Tech. It's going to be James Franklin's OC. So you kind of lose one in the Letterman piece. You still got Deion Barnes, Dan Connor out there as guys who, you can still slot in here depending on how things kind of shake out. But I think Lynn gives you a little bit of leeway there. But again, this is a guy who is really highly regarded. He had some time in the NFL. His dad is still with the Commanders, I believe. In fact, I remember because when Penn State was at USC last year, I remember talking to his dad on the phone. I don't remember why exactly, John. I don't remember why I was having this conversation, but I remember being on the phone in a rental car in a hotel parking lot talking to D'Anton Lynn's dad for like an hour.
Anthony Lynn, for those curious.
Yeah. And just kind of like, how did your son get into this? And there's the story out there that D'Anton was sleeping in the Jets facility when his dad was there on the coaching staff because he just was like, well, why should I get a place? I'm young. I'm working here around the clock. I might as well just sleep in the building, right? The dad's like, dude, I'm coaching here. You cannot be sleeping in the building. Like, this is not going to do it. Yeah, so I think he would be a really intriguing fit if he wants to do it, if Matt Campbell goes that route. But yeah, again, you're also going young. But John, we just lived the other side of this of like,
Yeah.
you got the best coordinator in the market last year, you paid top dollar, and you got the old grizzled vet. And, you know, that's why I think Penn State fans probably should be open to things being different this time around, because last year was kind of the textbook, run it back, spend all the money, have all the 5-star talents, all the talented people. And what'd you get? You got a 6-6 team, and the coach got fired, and you're fully hitting the reset button now. So I think you have to kind of be open to some different ideas here. And I think Lynn would be that. Yeah,
I agree with that. I also don't think they have to do an opposites thing where just because it's like where athletic. I know you're not saying that. Yeah. But like we see this with athletic directors all the time where they will hire like, well, I hired an offensive coach last time and it didn't work out, so I must hire a defensive coach. Like it happens at a bunch of places. I don't think that's good process either. Good process, always finding and hiring the person you think is the best candidate. We'll get to the running backs opening, and then we'll get to some questions here. If you have questions about
because Stan Drayton is going to coach the bowl game.
Yeah, we'll talk about
to South Carolina though. Yeah.
Yes, we'll talk about that too. But don't forget, if you have questions, leave them in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can, which seems to be most of them, hopefully tonight. But first, Audrey, I think you have some words from our friends over at Roback.
I do, John. I see the logo on your chest. There it is.
More shoulder. It's up in.
Well, yeah, you're right. That is, it's more. I see this on your upper body, upper extremities.
Yes.
Our friends over at Roback, you can save 20% off of your first purchase at roback.com when you use code TND20. That's TND20 as in the Nittany Dispatch 20. At this point, John, they're going to be pushing the shipping windows for Christmas if they're trying to get it done. Now, however, maybe you're one of those families that, you can't get everybody together on the 25th, so you have a little bit of extra time to get the Roback and get your orders placed. If that's you and you're not worried about the shipping deadlines, you can go over, check out roback.com and use code TND20. That's TND20 to save 20% off of your first purchase.
Okay, the running backs coach opening, where I learned that people on message boards are paying attention to who I follow on Twitter, which is what's very funny to me. Yeah, you follow Elijah Brooks, and all of a sudden everybody starts noticing these types of things. Who knows? Maybe I'll just start following people for fun at this point. That could be a good time. But no,
John, who has like the least active social media account of anyone. That's just
to be fair, that probably makes people think that there's more weight when I actually do follow someone, which is certainly
John, maybe you should just unfollow me and follow me, and then they'll think that
that's true.
I'm the DC.
Right. Can't rule it out. But no, the running backs coach opening, I would anticipate this being someone who has ties to this kind of area, right? Like the Mid-Atlantic, Northeast, DMV, somewhere, the names that have already been pointed out that I mentioned or that were mentioned because I followed them. Elijah Brooks, EJ Barthel, those kind of names.
Why, John? Why did you follow those guys?
You're just trying to get ahead on some things sometimes,
Because you're thinking people are going to tweet it first. That's what you're thinking.
No, I'm just trying to get ahead on some things.
I will say I was cognizant of not doing that because I didn't want to freak people out during the coaching search with like different follows. I was kind of because again, people do look at those types of things, and we see it too. But now with the algorithm, everything's a disaster on X most days. But it's like I remember earlier on, it used to be, oh, well, this person must be getting hired because look at all the Penn State players just followed this guy, and so it was a little more of a tell then. But yeah, now John's just out following weird things now.
No, shout out to my friend Chris, who was the one who pointed it out. He made mention to me that he noticed it on the message boards. So this is a thing that I have to be aware of now. But I do think that those ties are going to be an important part of this because I think I saw someone mention like who's going to be recruiting the DMV in the chat. I don't think that stuff's been necessarily decided yet. I would also guess that they approach it sort of like James did, where it's you have multiple coaches. Yeah, and also like you have multiple coaches. So if someone leaves, there's overlap, and a player doesn't just decommit because their position coach left, because their region coach left. And so I think that is going to be important. This is a spot that is traditionally like a high-end recruiter, and I would anticipate that's the case here too.
And John, what running backs are on this team next year?
The other thing, we genuinely no idea.
I mean,
I think
all
that
these positions.
Go ahead.
No. I'm just no. Sorry. God, what are those awkward pauses again? We were doing so well.
No, I think I was going to say I think that Penn State's running backs, like the ones we're going to see in the Pinstripe Bowl, we're not going to see Nick Singleton, as first reported by Rich Scarcella over at the Reading Eagle. I don't know that we're going to see Katron Allen, and if we do see Katron Allen, it will be limited reps for him. So that means you're going to see Corey Smith, Quentin Martin, Cam Wallace, I think, is still healthy. I genuinely don't remember. But yeah, I like that's what you're going to see. And those guys are going to have a chance to impress Matt Campbell, and Matt Campbell is going to have a chance to evaluate them and see if that's the move they want to make moving forward, or if they want to go get different running backs.
Remember the simpler times, John, when we were asking in the preseason, James, who is RB3? Who is that guy? Yeah, turns out that was
Turns out that's RB1 on December 27th.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a motley crew for this Pinstripe Bowl, just in terms of opt-outs and guys that you're probably never going to see here again. But yeah, I mean, we do know that Stan Drayton is going to stay through the game. And boy, I would love to be a fly on the wall over in that football building these days, where, I mean, you literally have people coming and going. We know Phil Troutwine is headed to Florida, to his alma mater. I am curious to see if any O-linemen follow Troutwine to Florida from here. I think that's going to be something that could happen. But again, I don't know what you say and do after this season in terms of, I mean, I remember asking Phil, gosh, maybe it was a month ago at this point, just of like, hey, this was supposed to be the best line in the country, and you guys had the trophy in the meeting room, right, printed out of this is going to be our year. And
he was supposed to be an NFL offensive line coach at the end of this season too.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it this year has just been a disaster in pretty much every phase for this team. And yeah, so I don't know what linemen we see at the bowl game. We do know that Venga is going to the NFL, which has been expected for a long time. I think
opted out.
Yeah. I think he'll probably be the first Penn State player off the board in April. And I have a piece up over my Substack from the fall where I was talking to Dane Brugler over at The Athletic, just in terms of this roster and who stands out of the draft eligible guys. And some of the feedback that Dane was getting was, hey, everything on this offense is a mess, but 71's doing it right. And 71, of course, being Venga. So yeah, I mean, who is carrying the football in the Pinstripe Bowl? Who is blocking for that person? Stay tuned, because it's going to be a weird bowl game, but it's all about trying to put these pieces together for the future right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All of this is about 2026, right, and evaluating for that. Let's get some questions in the chat. First one I'm seeing here. What, since Matt Campbell's hiring, has surprised us the most, whether that's portal, coaches staying or going, coaching hires, etc.? I think maybe the most surprising thing to me was that the offensive coordinator search wasn't extended out like the defensive coordinator one has been. And that's not like a knock on Mauser or Campbell, but I guess I just didn't know that was, you know what I mean? He was the guy, right? I kind of thought that there would be more of an extensive search and that there was a good chance it ended on Mauser. But if you know that's the guy, you make that hire right away. But yeah, I think that's been the most surprising aspect. There will be certainly portal entries that might surprise some people. Maybe some are possible who some on this podcast were really high on and thought they were going to do really well this year and were egregiously wrong about. And now he's going to have to eat crow for it when it happens. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Some people whose names might be shortened to initials, perhaps.
Potentially, we'll see.
Maybe we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that probably surprised me most has just been how forward Campbell has been in terms of, hey, this is my GM. This is what we're going to do. We're getting to work right away. Like, to me, there was always so much uncertainty, so many unknowns with James, just because it was like everything was secretive and guarded. And like this is a competitive edge and these types of things. And God, imagine if we would have seen practice in the preseason. I mean, imagine maybe they would have been a 5-win team. I don't know.
The kind of stuff that would make someone, I don't know, yell at someone at the 50-yard line.
I have no idea what you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was always like with James, you always had to try to read tea leaves to figure out what he actually meant, or it was very passive aggressive at times with things that he would say through the media. Where Matt Campbell, I feel like it's been really direct, and it's been, hey, like this is what we're going to do. We want guys who are going to be tough, who are going to be gritty. And again, you go back to the commitments they got this weekend. The quarterback, John, not going to wow you with the statistics, not going to wow you with the ratings on the recruiting sites. The guy's gritty, the guy's tough, and they're going to knock on their talent evaluations and take that to the bank and say, like, these are traits that we think we can win with. And so to me, it's really just been that Campbell's been forward about what they want, which they want toughness. But I think the surprise element maybe has been just how many coaches he brought with him.
Yeah.
I thought there would be a lot. I didn't think it would necessarily be just about everyone. But
it looks
that's
like
kind of where the sport is,
It looks like the positions that won't be Iowa State guys are running backs coach, quarterbacks coach. We believe will be Jake Waters, right, from Iowa State. That's not. I don't think it's done yet.
Whose recruitment I covered when he was trying to with Bill O'Brien. Yeah,
between Kansas State and Penn State back in 2014, I think. So the only one on offense is running backs coach, I believe, unless something changes there. And on defense, I would expect that. Like I saw this in the chat too. Someone asked, is Connor and Barnes staying or leaving? I expect both to stay at this point. Again, these things are not done. I'm not reporting that they're done, but I
fluid
expect,
situation.
Yes, all of this stuff is. That's why you'll see a lot of people wait to report stuff even when it's kind of out there until it's done, because this stuff can change quickly during the coaching carousel, specifically with coordinators and definitely with position coaches. As things open up, you get better jobs, what have you. But on defensive end or defensive line, linebackers, and corners will all be different from Iowa State, which is what we anticipate. Terry Smith probably takes the cornerback spot. We don't know that yet, though. So it looks like the only coach coming over from Iowa State on the defensive side of the ball will be Deion Broomfield, unless I'm forgetting somebody. And he's listed as a secondary coach, essentially, in the directory, which is very funny that's how that came out. But yeah, I think we're seeing it's a lot of his offensive staff and a Penn State's defensive staff, kind of, right? And we'll see what happens with Dex, Anthony Poindexter, co-defensive coordinator, safeties coach.
That's.
I don't know that he's going to. I don't. So again, this is very much fluid. Mm-hmm. I don't think he'll be at Penn State next year. I'm also not rolling it out. I don't think he'll be at Virginia Tech next year, though, and I think that was the assumption for a lot of people. But right now, that's not my expectation.
Imagine that, though. UVA legend at Virginia Tech. That would just be, that was, in fact, somebody had asked me about that on my Substack. They had said they had mentioned Higgins and also Dex. And I was like, well, I don't think we have to worry about the receivers coach. But I think you kind of, you move on to these things. And we'll see how they put the staff together. Bear down, Audrey. Yeah, sure. Like, cool.
From friend of the podcast.
Because at best right now, at best dots, Bears can tie the Packers this season. I will not be dragged down into this discourse while the Packers season there, people think it's over. Probably maybe is. But John, you know what? I'm gonna keep watching. Saturday night, which is another reason why this Pinstripe Bowl is ruining so many things. I buy my train ticket like week and a half ago or whatever it was. Literally within hours, it comes out that the Packers-Ravens game gets flexed to Saturday night, the same time of my train. I mean, it's just, I think the universe is really trying to keep me from the Pinstripe Bowl. And then I see the media itinerary with like no access in New York City. And I think it's probably, I should have listened to the universe.
Yeah, I think we all should on that front. Question here, any word on who we're going to target in the portal, or it's too soon to say? I think it is too soon to say for a lot of positions. I think at quarterback that someone not in the portal remains the most like if I were to lay out the odds, I would take the field for quarterback. But if I had to pick one, I know I'd phrase things like this a lot. The longtime listeners know I do this all the time. I would take the field if I were to have that option. But if I were forced to pick one quarterback, it would be Rocco Becht. And I believe that's the case for you too, Audrey.
Yeah, we'll see kind of what happens. Because, again, the quarterback one, keep in mind, Penn State is willing to spend. And that's kind of the other piece here that I think fans should remember. As we found from the audio leak, this was one of the four most expensive rosters this year. Again, just because you have it and spend it doesn't mean it guarantees wins. But at quarterback,
think there might be a disparity, though, to be clear, in that top four. Like, I don't know if it was top four. I'll say that. Yeah,
it's a number that Penn State volunteered. They didn't expect that we would all find out about.
I was going to say, I don't think volunteered is the right word there.
Yeah, I mean, volunteered to the people in the room. We didn't expect that it would just make it to the ears of everyone else. But, I mean, you, in this day and age, are able to flip rosters if this is what ends up happening. I still think we're going to see a ton of guys in the portal. I will say we will hear from Ethan Grunkemeyer on Wednesday. Penn State is holding a virtual Pinstripe Bowl Media Day. We'll hear from Grunk, Trevor Pena, Dom DeLuca, and King Mack, I believe, are the folks we're slated to hear from. We'll hear from Terry Smith on Zoom on Thursday. So fully expect that Ethan Grunkemeyer will be getting asked if he plans to be here in January on this call tomorrow. And again, what are all these guys? What have their first impressions been of Matt Campbell? Because we know that team meeting took place that previous Monday once Campbell was introduced. So this is the first that we've talked to any players since Matt Campbell has been hired. But yeah, I mean, I think quarterback is the big one. But I rule absolutely nothing out with this roster, just in terms of we could see so many guys moving on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just because this one made me laugh. Wide receiver recruiting pitch. Would you like to be a Houston Texan? I think that is very funny.
Hey man, CJ Stroud, they looked really good this past weekend.
Same person mentioned this anchoring bias with when we were talking about James with Kobe Howard. I was searching for the word in my brain, so thank you for mentioning that. But yes, I think James had.
I thought they were coming at me with something Packers.
No.
Like, oh, well,
no. This was about James and kind of not changing his opinion with Kobe Howard.
I was just gonna say stubborn, but yeah.
I think there's some level of that to it too. Question here about quarterbacks. I felt next season's QB was not on this year's roster, and with the rush QBs entering the portal yesterday after they got their last checks on the 15th, do you still believe that? Yes. As I said earlier about Becht, I would also, if I were to take Ethan Grunkemeyer to the field, I would take the field pretty definitively. Listen, he could have an awesome Pinstripe Bowl, be really impressive, and Matt Campbell could say, this is the guy. This is who we're going to go with at quarterback. But I don't kind of anticipate that being the case. I think right now Rocco Becht's a better quarterback, and I think it would be really difficult to keep Grunk and add Becht, right? Like, it's not easy when Grunk can probably not transfer down because he could go to like a Big 12 school that's still Power 4, but transfer down from a prestige standpoint, I guess is the best way to put it, and go start, right? Like Brendan Sorsby, I kept saying that Cincinnati would make a lot of sense for Ethan Grunkemeyer. Well, Brendan Sorsby just went in the portal and is looking at potentially going to Texas Tech or Indiana or somewhere like that. And I do not anticipate Penn State being involved there for what it's worth. I know that's been kind of discussed. I don't expect them to go.
I think Sorsby's going to get him a big old bag somewhere.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be either Texas Tech or Indiana, pretty much. So I think that Grunk could end up at Cincinnati, and that would make a lot of sense. But we'll see. Yeah, right now I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be.
And I think, to your point too, like, this is a guy who, because of the circumstances this year being what they were, Aller gets hurt, Grunkemeyer then becomes the guy. It's hard to kind of put the genie back in the bottle after you've been a starter for half a year at Penn State and say, hey, you want to come and sit here? I think that's just, again, because of the way this year played out, I think that probably changes the calculus for Grunkemeyer a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah. Question here about the buyouts for Andy Kotelnicki and Jim Knowles. There
is mitigation in those. Yeah.
Yes. And so we don't have specific numbers on that front. Someone said, is this the part where I ask if Fran Brown will be the defensive coordinator? And another shout out to all of our longtime listeners. We appreciate all of you, especially those active in the chat. Someone asked
and
where.
It's a no, John. It's a no.
Yes,
Remind
yes.
everyone. It's
Sorry,
a no.
I didn't know that I had to say that part
Brian
of it. I assumed we all
Dable,
knew.
Fran Brown,
Yeah.
who else? Brian Hartline, all names.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you want to talk about botching a hire? Brian Hartline hiring Tim Beck, not like there are two Tim Becks. This is not the hire. This is not the Tim Beck I would have hired. He was the head coach at Coastal Carolina, had been at Texas previously, North Carolina State too. If Brian Hartline wanted a major head coaching job, he had to do better than Tim Beck. Even at South Florida, you can do better than Tim Beck.
Maybe there are reasons why, John, that he was not in the mix for some of these bigger jobs. Maybe it was kind of crazy to think that someone could just jump from wide receivers coach, OC, but keep in mind Ryan Day's running the show. So all of a sudden, he's here, guys.
I also think there are a lot of other reasons for that, too. Someone asked what was with the Rutgers furniture again, which, to be clear, we were in SHI Stadium. We were.
I do not own. There's nothing terrible behind me. I do not own a Rutgers sofa. I do not have an exit sign above my desk in my home. It was the Rutgers Stadium, but maybe the Pinstripe Bowl, like they'll treat us. We're gonna have to hammer out the logistics of doing that one because that's gonna be. I'm gonna have a train to catch, open air press box. Yeah, this is gonna be a real horror show to wrap up the season.
Someone asked any idea if Justin Lustig returns as a special teams coordinator. That is not my expectation as of now. I don't know if you have anything to add there.
Honestly, I thought he would have been at Virginia Tech by now. I don't know I haven't looked closely enough at James's special teams things other than he was super complimentary of Justin Lustig this year, which when James starts throwing around compliments in my head, I say, hey, he likes this guy. He likes this guy a lot. But yeah, I have not looked to see if James has a special teams coordinator or not. I haven't waded into.
So. Yeah. There's a Michigan fan asking if we miss commenting on coaching search rumors. As you can tell, I do not. And they said they would welcome our thoughts on the sad circus that is and will be the Michigan search. Listen, there's a lot going on there. I don't know if you can add anything here, but I'll say that Jed Fish was a name that I heard early and would anticipate
would make sense.
We'll have some staying power in that search.
Because remember, John, we've done the Kalen DeBoer thing. We've had that before.
Yes.
And if we don't need Paul F coming after us again. But yeah, I mean, I think there are the names that make sense. You are Michigan. You can tout it as, hey, look at us. Look what we've just been able to do. But there's also like the side of this, which goes back to, again, the sport as a whole of, hey, you won it all, but look at the fallout since then. And like, look at that side of it. And I know I'm sure there are folks out there, no doubt, that are like, we don't care. We do it all again. Because your team won. And I get that on a fandom level. I do get that. But yeah, I'm fascinated to see who they hire because again, the timing of this is pretty wild too.
Yeah. One of my favorite things, I'm not going to put this comment on screen because it is highly inappropriate, but I am going to ban this person shortly after I say this. So essentially calling us clowns that never kept him honest and saying, yes, sir. And I think you're talking to the wrong people here. And you're looking at the wrong. Who do we
keep honest?
Yeah. James, evidently, which is very funny to me. And I hope you enjoy your ban. Let's see here. Anything on Hank Poteet, Iowa State cornerbacks coach and Harrisburg High alum? There was some discussion about him early when Campbell was hired. It's really hard once you have this many secondary coaches, right? Like you have Terry Smith, who that's where he was last year as a cornerbacks coach. You have Deion Broomfield, who was a safeties coach last year. I'm not saying it's impossible. I don't think it's going to happen, though. The puzzle pieces kind of don't line up right now.
You got to be the secondary to the secondary coach. Yeah.
Yeah, right. The assistant to the regional manager.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I think that is part of, though, like when we say that all of this is up in the air, it's possible that they shift things around, that maybe Terry Smith is coaching somewhere that we don't anticipate. Penn State, to be clear, but different position than we anticipate. I don't want to scare anybody and make them think that he won't be at Penn State next year. But I think that is kind of going to be what's interesting is how that Matt Campbell kind of takes all of these puzzle pieces and makes them work out. But yeah, someone asked, does Grunk still have a red shirt? No, redshirted last year.
Last year, yeah.
Yes, because he's a redshirt freshman this year. Someone asked if the coordinator is going to buy out in a lump sum, to which I say once again, thank you to all of our longtime listeners.
Yeah, they're going to actually
More
Christmas
comments
Eve,
about-
they're going to deliver it as in
Yeah.
a lump sum payment. They're going to have Santa Claus come down the chimney with a lump sum payment. Yep.
Yeah. Another comment about, was James's buyout mitigated too? I heard he was getting his buyout one from some. I appreciate
man.
all of you.
We're playing all the hits tonight, aren't we?
Yes, we are, as we always do. But yeah, I think that is everything that I am seeing, unless we missed anything. Unless there are coaches, we didn't mention them at the start. There's lots of offensive line coach Ryan Clanton. Mauser will have tight ends. Quarterbacks coach is in all likelihood Jake Waters. And I think Dion Broomfield.
Something.
Yes.
Something in the realm over there.
My expectation is assistant quarterbacks coach. I don't know that though. I don't know if Waters changes that or what have you. He was someone I thought would go with James for sure when this process started. And this is why, like, we don't report that unless we know it, like it's done, because I now don't believe that's the case. Dion Broomfield, we've mentioned throughout the conversations after the questions, the safeties coach who's done a good job over at Iowa State has come over. Someone I think is a big ad for the staff, but if you have any more questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. But I think
that's God, there's so many staff.
Oh, the off-field staff too.
The GMs and kind of the different recruiting pieces that they're going to continue to kind of cobble that together, which I say cobble that together mainly just because it's like these guys hit the ground running and, they're trying to make up already for that 2-person recruiting class, right? So you're out there and you see it, this past weekend when they get the punter and they get the quarterback and they get the defensive back. These are all moves that you're making and you're going to see what Iowa State guys, right? Like what other Iowa State guys maybe follow this staff here. Of course, the quarterbacks are always going to be the big piece. And Penn State ends up with 2 quarterbacks now who both, had multiple head coaching changes throughout both of their recruitments, which is a whole other story that maybe I'll dive into. But yeah, I mean, I think as you kind of look at the way that they are putting this staff together and the role of the GM, and Jack Griffith is one of those off-field guys, right? That we saw.
The portal czar, as he was referred to.
He was referred to as the portal czar previously at Cincinnati. But John, actually, I wrote about this on my Substack, so my subscribers already know this story, but I can share it on here now. Because again, the best stuff always goes first behind the paywall. I was sitting here on Saturday afternoon, trying to figure out why is this name familiar to me? Like, why do I know Jack's name? What I don't understand why I know this name. Turns out, long story long, he was a law student at Villanova when I spent the week there in 2021 with the Wildcats, and he was volunteering with the football program. And when they were doing the noise, they were doing the crowd noise, he got to handle the leaf blowers among many other responsibilities when you're a volunteer at the football program. And so that's where I knew him from. So you talk about career pivots, right? And how this whole staff seemingly, and so many people in the football coaching industry and the support staffer roles and all these types of things, like, these guys and gals often had different jobs and different walks of life. And he's one of them. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how he assists them here with kind of the portal usage. But yeah, it was definitely a full circle moment from you go from being the guy helping pump up the crowd noise when Villanova's coming here to now all of a sudden you're a Penn State employee. That's pretty cool story. And I think it's going to be neat for us to dive into so many of these backstories with these coaches because we've got fresh storylines to work with, John. And to me, that's exciting because it is, we want to introduce these folks to our audience and say, hey, this is who this person is. And then, of course, we'll get into the nitty gritty of it and the scheme and all that fun stuff too. But
speaking of which,
portal's coming. Did they hire someone when we were in the air?
No. Okay. Someone asked about the 3-3-5 with the defense, which is what Iowa State ran under Campbell. I would expect it to be a 4-2-5. Campbell mentioned in the small gathering with reporters after his press conference, which if you'd like to read about that.
Beat writers that were there.
The local beat writers that were there.
10 people who were there in the room where things were said.
Yeah, and sometimes people take that information and use it and don't attribute it properly. We've seen that before. But he essentially said that you couldn't get 3 defensive linemen or more than 3 defensive linemen to play at Iowa State, so you had to play 3-3-5. and it was a talent thing and an availability of specific types of talent.
Four down linemen, they had challenges doing that there, but here you look at again the profile of the place, the profile of this defense. I would not expect at all that we're going to see a 3-3-5.
Yeah. Someone asked, actually Eric, again, friend of the show, said karaoke bet update. We'll get there. I think next week we should be able to get one of those.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, John, like we're not even, I'll be in New York City for a day. Like that's the other, I mean.
I don't even know that I'll be there for 24 hours. It depends on when I leave Friday night. It's just unfortunate. Don't worry. Audrey will have to pay.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we're just assuming I lost. Like I'm not even putting up a fight saying maybe I didn't lose because the only piece of this that I remember is saying that like, yeah, sure. I think Galler will be, in New York City for the Heisman. That's like honestly the only part of this that I remember. And spoiler alert, we know that did not happen.
Yes. But listen, you'll know that I lost because then I'll just never bring it up again. That's
true. Yeah. Cause I'm a bit of a digital hoarder in terms of my desktop at all times is just a train wreck. So to try and find the file where we did this, we'd be better off going back to the preseason show and just finding it on there.
Yes, which probably going to rely on one of us, or if a listener wants to do that, that would be great.
We love outsourcing our work around here. If you can't tell.
Someone mentioned Alan Zamitis. Yes, I'm under the impression that Penn State plans on keeping him. Don't know that that's finalized yet either. Less coaches seem to be following James Franklin. Do you think there could be less players transferring out than originally expected? It depends on, I guess, what your expectation was. I still think it will be a good bit. Like it'll be quite a few players. As mentioned, there will be players that were starters this year. Potentially that this podcast was high on, or at least half of it that could go. And there could be other players that were. Yes. This
as I point the wrong way. Yeah.
Yes. The audio listeners won't know which half you're pointing to.
True.
So,
That's
true. They'll never get to find out that you're pointing to me. But yeah, I kind of think it's that part's still up in the air. Players can change their mind. These are kids that, there's a lot going on and there's a lot for them to consider. So
and I mean,
if they haven't announced, also, I would like be patient. This stuff will play out over the next 2.5 weeks.
Yeah. I think there's maybe a little bit of surprise in that more players haven't said yet that they're leaving. Because we've heard from Elliot Washington announced in the last handful of days that he plans to enter the transfer portal. This will not be the last one. I just don't know if this is something that we see the night of the 27th, the 28th, if that's the time frame. And again, we'll definitely hit on this with Terry Smith this week, but your guys that are going in the portal, are they still practicing? Are they, because again, we're looking at the numbers piece of this and they're going to have a lot of opt-outs and those types of things. So Terry seemed certainly, when I asked him about this in November, seemed open to, hey, if guys are going to go in the portal, it's fine. They're still part of this current team to let them play. But yeah, we'll definitely revisit that when we hear from him on Thursday. It'll be good to hear from some current players, to hear from Terry. I know the team then heads to New York City on the 22nd. There's practice availability Christmas Eve. I think I can speak for the podcast when I say that we will not be there at Fordham on Christmas Eve.
I don't know. Sometimes I do dumb things. I can't. I know you won't be there. I can't rule myself out. We'll see how I'm feeling.
Why? Why?
Because I just said I do dumb things sometimes. That's why. And that would qualify. And last thing we'll get to here in the chat. Grateful for everyone here that's asking questions. It's greatly appreciated. Enjoy all of you, except for that one guy earlier. Who was calling
who said clowns. To bear down. That one. Really...
No, not that one. We appreciate dots. But I would mention here in the chat, I would assume we will see less coordinator turnover over the course of Campbell's tenure than when Franklin was here. It was a revolving door for almost 12 years previously. I actually think you want that if you are a Penn State fan, because it's a sign that you're doing well, right? Like generally there's more turnover when coaches or when coordinators become head coaches. And I know it may feel like that James was firing coaches all the time, but that really wasn't the case for the most part.
Only in the receiving corps.
Yeah, I think off the top of my head, there were.
Offensive line was early. No,
I'm saying
offensive line.
I'm saying coordinators. I'm saying just offense and defense. I think the only offensive coordinators fired were Yurcich, Shiraka, and Donovan. and
Donovan,
Ronnie
and then
Moorhead.
Ronnie,
and
it was kind of let's
nudge you out.
see if we can, and then it goes from like, which like good for
Moorhead
him.
gets
He's got a
Mississippi
really
State.
good thing going on. Really, he's got a good thing going on at Old Dominion.
Well, he just lost his quarterback, which is not going to help his cause.
Well, yeah, but he's got a new contract.
He did. That new contract would be better if it came with Colton Joseph at quarterback moving forward.
Well, yeah, those are, I think, the big ones. And then, the receiving core, they were just that position group, which I still, John, and I know we've talked about this. I know I've written about it ad nauseum. It always just blew my mind a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of bit, that James Franklin, like, his background was with working with receivers, right? Like, obviously offensive guy, but I just thought that one season in Green Bay would have maybe changed him for the receiving core there from there to here. But it, like, to me, that was always like, why is this the group that's struggling? Like, and again,
it was really only recent though. But, you know what I mean? Like, they were really good at receiving for a bit.
But recent for like 4 years at least, right? Like,
but there's still 8 years before that. So
I know, but that to me was like how they ever got there and how it got that bad and how they couldn't pull themselves out of it is just, it's a mystery. Kind of like the whole, Penn State hasn't had a quarterback drafted in the first round since Kerry Collins. Like, that's a wild, wild mystery. And I don't think we're going to see that one changing, which I think might have also been one of our bets in the preseason.
I hope not. I hope I was on the right side of it at least. One last comment that I will address because I think it ties in. Franklin lost guys to head coaching jobs, to be fair, but I did feel like somewhere in a hurry to skip town. I think it's fair to say that James Franklin is not the easiest person to work for. He tries to make it like it is family culture type thing. He wears on people. He is busting his ass at all times, so he expects the same from those working with him, and it can be a lot, right? And it can, if you take the job, know that, okay, you can spend a couple years there, and springboard into a bigger job, then sure, it can be helpful. But I think, that is the there's some truth
demanding
to that.
For sure. I think that's when because your head coach is the person setting the tone for the organization, right? You're the CEO, and when you're grinding around the clock, the expectation is that everybody else is going to do the same, right? And I think that's a tough. Again, the hours these guys put in, it's wild. And that's always to James's credit, is the man worked like a maniac. Like, that's, again, this goes back to, he did not need to take another job. Like,
right. He said that
sitting around collecting his money. Like, that's just you love something, you want to do it. But man, if I would have hit the Powerball this week, John, you would have been doing solo shows, and I just would have said, and I probably still would have hopped on.
I don't know that that's true for me, and maybe that's not a good thing. But I like what we do. It's a lot of fun.
Oh man, it's fun, but if there's other things that I could find me sitting on a beach till I get tired of that, and then I'll go sit on a different beach, and then maybe by that time my Packers season tickets come in, and
watch them go 5-12. Anyways, I think that is a good place to leave it. We will be back at some point next week, unless some major
early next week, pre-Christmas.
There could be emergency episodes, defensive coordinator related things, like big train, whatever. Like, we will be, as things happen, we will be here as always. But I think that's a good place to leave this. Yeah. Follow us on Twitter to find that information. When we will be live next, you can find Audrey at Snyder4. You can find me at John Sauber. You can find us on Blue Sky. You can find me at johnsauber.bsky.social and Audrey at audreysnyder.bsky.social. Read all of Audrey's writing at insidethelines.substack.com, where I can't recommend enough that you subscribe. And you can do the same to see my writing at centerdaily.com. If you are watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up button down below. Hit the subscribe button down below. I have lost track of how many subscribers we have, but whatever 1,000 we're at, I want to get to the next one. Let's get to the next 1,000. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Those really help us out. As I said, we will be back as things happen, and at the latest, we will be back early next week with a new episode. Until then, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day.